So, this is the part of the video where we pretend it came out on time and nothing ever happened. Except we can't really do that, right? Because I have to explain that the video you're about to listen to was recorded 4 months ago or so, early October. Other than that caveat, consider it ignored. So here it is, the Q&A video, where I end up talking about a lot of Game of Thrones, the series, the books, the future, and then a few questions that aren't Game of Thrones related, stuff about me, the channel, and all good stuff. The questions I answered were in no particular order, and like I said, it's an old recording, so the cutoff date was, in October. But I tried to get to all of them I could. I don't think I left any other than ones that I simply couldn't understand because of how they were worded, or there was one question that I never answered, that I know for sure that a couple of people asked. There were several who's your favorite character questions. Some people asked like top 5 favorite characters. I didn't answer that just because if I was going to, I would want to put a lot more, detail into each of my choices than, this kind of format in a video that was already long would have allowed. But other than that, I think I got to every one of them. I tried to answer as best I could. Just one or two more things before I shut up and let the questions start going. I've timestamped each individual question in the description below, so you can, jump around and skip to any questions that look interesting to you if you get to a question and you're like, I don't really care about hearing this one, so you can just go to the next one. I'm explaining to you how timestamps work, even though, I mean, you're on YouTube already, you probably know how that shit works, so I'm just gonna do that. And anyway, the video was originally supposed to be, partly a mini celebration for getting 500 subscribers, and so I feel like I should definitely thank you guys. 500 people care enough about my dumbass opinions to click a red button so they can hear more of them. So, cheers to you guys. And with all that being said, here's the Q&A video, which came out exactly when it was meant to. What characters, I assume in Game of Thrones, do you think don't deserve the popularity and recognition they're getting? I guess that's kind of a tough question because you might assume that I would say Daenerys, but, I think she's definitely earned the popularity and recognition. Even if what she does is not, book accurate, not even common sense accurate, she still does some awesome stuff. Who I would say is a character that doesn't deserve the popularity and recognition, I think the most overrated character in the show would have to be Brienne of Tarth. What has she done? What has Brienne done throughout the entire show? She beat Jaime in a sword fight after he had been in prison for a year, and he almost beat her anyway. So, okay. She's assigned to bring Jaime back to King's Landing, safe and sound, and on the way he loses a hand. Okay, so failure there. Then she's assigned to go find Arya and Sansa and keep them safe. She finds Arya. Arya escapes. Then she goes to try to find Sansa. Goes to find Sansa, then abandons Sansa, kills Stannis instead of, saving Sansa. And then the next, because the story's so stupid, she finds Sansa anyway. And then she's sent to go get the Blackfish to surrender. And she fails to convince the Blackfish to surrender. So Brienne is constantly, almost exclusively, fails at jobs she's assigned to. She's a useless fucking character, but people love her, girl power. Captain Phasma for the win, am I right? Anyway, nothing against Gwendolyn Christie, moving on. Oh, gosh. First personal question. Actually, I think it might be one of the only ones. So it says, we don't know much about you. What are some other things you enjoy? What do you like to do? Do you have hobbies or other interests? Well, I guess I can give you guys the basics about me. I'm 19 years old. I'm from Texas. I play the bass. I also played football. I got recruited. I played college football for about 2 weeks until I tore every ligament in my left knee. But I think it probably goes without saying that I play video games. RPGs mainly. I like story-based games. BioWare, Telltale, Quantic Dream, shit like that. I think I've mentioned before that I like to write. I write short stories semi-regularly. I haven't done it more recently, but I do enjoy writing. Oh, yeah, I guess I'm also 6'9".
Fun fact.
The next question is, who is the rightful admin of the Team Stannis social group on Facebook? The answer to this question is pretty simple. I'm banned from Team Stannis. That's right, those fucking cucks banned me. It used to be one of my favorite groups. I used to get so many memes from there. I used to, be an active contributor. And then when Season 6 started, they apparently instituted a new rule saying you can't post spoilers of the new episode for it was like a full week or something. It was something outrageous. And I didn't know about it at the time, and I posted I posted one of my quick one-off videos there. I'm not sure what it was. It might have been my Benjen video, but I shared it in there because I thought people would like it, and the post got deleted. And a comment from an admin, I don't remember which admin, said, "Hey, we have a new rule. Don't post the shit. This is your one warning." And I replied. I said, "Oh, really? I'm sorry. I thought this group was for intelligent fans. I thought this was a book reader fan group. I didn't realize that this was catering to show casuals and assholes. So, but whatever, it's your group." And then I got banned. I didn't even get a second chance. I guess the admin didn't like being challenged. So I would recommend anyone in the Team Stannis Facebook group leave immediately. They are not kind, they are not one of us, and I do not support them. Which is your favorite house and why? This might sound, favorite house is kind of hard. I like to think more in terms of characters than I do about houses, because I feel like, choosing your favorite house, that's kind of falling into the feudalism trap. But I guess if I had to choose, the House Stark, why not? The family unit. For the first book, they're the protagonists, they're the ones you're supposed to like, so, Team Stark. What do you think will happen to Rickon in the books? Well, that's a really tough question. I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in the first 100 pages of Winds of Winter. I've told you that before. Blindly guessing here, I think Rickon does have something very special about him. The way I kind of always imagined it is Rickon, Sweet Robin, Shireen, all the younger kids. I've imagined them being the only survivors after all the adults have fucking wiped each other out. But, anything could happen. Anything could happen. I'm not setting that in stone, but that's just kind of the idea I kind of tend to lean towards. Do you think that the show does anything better than the books? Oh boy, now that's a tough one, isn't it? Well, story-wise, if you're talking about just plain story, I think the show did Oberyn better. Now, before I get a million messages about the Dornish plot and all its complexities and how everything in the books was stylistically designed to be that way, I get it, but I just like show Oberyn better. He's more likable. The actor, I can't think of his name right now, but even if I could, I would probably mispronounce it. He did an incredible job. I really liked it, and this was before I watched season 4. Season 4, I started reading. I actually started officially doing my official full read-through of the series for the first time during the middle of series 4. Right after, that's a story for another time. But as I was reading and I was watching season 4, the last season that was pretty good. I always liked Oberyn, and when I found out what happened to Oberyn, like a few days before The Mountain and the Viper aired, and I was just like, hyperventilating. Like, I don't want to see losing Oberyn in the books is bad enough, but losing Oberyn in the show where he's so much more awesome, that would be pretty sad. But other than story, what I really like about Game of Thrones, no joke, is the music. That's something that George R.R. Martin just simply can't do due to the medium. The music in Game of Thrones is beautiful. The main title theme, it's famous, it's fantastic. The Reigns of Castamere, beautifully done. I don't think George himself thought of it in such hauntingly great terms. The Climb, the song that plays when Littlefinger's giving his speech. Just the soundtrack, amazing. It adds such an atmosphere to the world that I think is just incredible, and it's one of my favorite things to come out of the show. This one's pretty long because he's given me a multiple choice. I appreciate the multiple choice because thinking answers on my own is pretty hard, so now I only have to choose. So let me read the question. Do you think that this dumbed-down version we're getting of A Song of Ice and Fire is turning out the way it is because A. George R.R. Martin is currently writing the most surprising and well-written soap opera of the century, being that B. D&D are a pair of douchebags who don't understand the books, and now they have surpassed the story in the books, don't know what they're doing. C. HBO are a bunch of greedy bastards who see that every minute an idiot see their channel and are asking for a more sugar-coated fan service. Or D, Game of Thrones' audience is mostly moronic fanboys who only care about tits, blood, and CGI lizards. Well, all are good points. And I think... Oh, man. I think you didn't give me an option E, all of the above, so I suppose which one do I think is most likely? I definitely think that B is the most likely. I think D&D... Well, they may not be douchebags, right? D&D get a little bit of a bad rap. For me, from everyone, they get a little bit of a bad rap. Their reputation is a little bit worse than it deserves to be. They are running what I think I think is probably by a large margin the most expensive television show ever produced. And it's also one of the most popular ever produced. And we as consumers simply can't imagine the stresses of such a job, the responsibilities, the endless meetings, all of this just to get the product that they're trying to make made. And then on top of that, trying to keep it loyal to the source material. It's a crazily difficult task. That being said, it's very clear that Dave and Dan don't understand some of the underlying themes of A Song of Ice and Fire in it. That some of it is just lost on them. And I think that's where most of the problems are coming from in seasons 5 and 6, you know? It's been said before, Dave and Dan decided that they wanted to make the books into a TV show after reading the Red Wedding scene. So really I don't think they ever kept reading after that part. I think they read the first 3 books and said, wow, this is amazing, we need to make a show. And then when book 4 and 5 came out, they didn't really pay as much attention to them. I think that's basically what happened. How or why is A Song of Ice and Fire a significant story? A significant story. This is a pretty broad question. This is already a pretty long recording, and we're not even halfway done with the questions. So I'm trying to keep something as big and broad as this succinct. I think A Song of Ice and Fire is a significant story because it is a story with a message that is hidden behind just a well-rounded great story. I think A Song of Ice and Fire has a lot of messages. It's definitely a feminist message. It's definitely a world peace message. It's definitely an anti-war message. It's definitely it's a very idealistic sort of message, I believe. We'll know more. This is kind of a hard question to answer until the story has been completed and we can see it in its totality and we can analyze it fully. But as where I think it's going and as the story I think it represents, I think it's a great story about the dangers of feudalism and monarchies and worlds in which women are not equal and the dangers of a bunch of different things. There's tons and tons of things in this story that you can draw as allegorical. The fight with Daenerys against the Sons of the Harpy can be completely analogous to the War on Terror. Even if it wasn't written in the story of analogy, A Song of Ice and Fire is so brilliantly written and so true to itself and so realistic that the actions taking place have applicability to the real world. That's the difference. It's not allegory, it's applicable. And The Song of Ice and Fire, well, like I said, this question will be easier to answer once all 7 books are out. But as for right now, that's what I think. I think A Song of Ice and Fire is a brilliant, engaging story that is hiding some pretty profound messages. Who do you think will die in The Winds of Winter? And are there any characters we haven't seen yet that you want to see in Season 7? Okay, so first of all, who do I think will die in The Winds of Winter? I think the safest bet would be to say that the Boltons will die in The Winds of Winter, or at least lose power. I don't think Winterfell being controlled by the Dreadfort is going to last much longer. I don't think that when the War for the Dawn comes that the Boltons will be one of the leading charges. I just don't think that's going to happen. Other than that, like I said, it's very hard to tell. I would dare to assume that Barristan could die. Because, while I really don't like how they did it in the show just to replace him with Tyrion, I think if Barristan died in the books, that could have a real impact, because right now, he's the angel on Dany's shoulder, whereas, Daario is the devil. So if Barristan were to die, that could have severe implications on Daenerys' character, and could definitely lead her down a darker path that I expect her to go down. And so those are the only ones that I can think with some sort of certainty might die. Everyone else, it's just completely up in the air. Bran could die, Stoneheart could die, Jaime could die, Cersei could die, Tommen could die, whatever. I've given 2 characters. Might as well go for a third. I think it's more than likely that Tommen will die in The Winds of Winter as well, just because of an old George R. R. Martin quote that said, several more people will sit the throne before the end of the series. So I think Tommen's going to die sooner rather than later. And I would say that's probably going to happen somewhere in The Winds of Winter. And are there any characters we haven't seen yet that you want to see in Season 7? I'm still holding out for Lady Stoneheart. I truly, truly am. I think it's ridiculous that she hasn't shown up. They eventually brought Cold Hands in, remember. Everyone was expecting Cold Hands in Season 3, but he didn't show up until Season 6. So maybe Everyone was expecting Stoneheart in Season 4. Maybe we'll get Stoneheart in Season 7? Maybe. And also Aegon, am I insane in thinking that a Targaryen currently invading Westeros in the books is like a huge, yeah. If Aegon's not, Aegon's not going to happen, but I really hope Lady Stoneheart still could. What's going to happen to Jorah? Well, I think Jorah is going to play the same role as Jon Connington will in the books. What that role is, I don't know because the books haven't come out yet, but if we're going by which theory I subscribe to, I think that Jon Connington in the books will give Aegon grayscale, and that'll have something to do with waking a dragon from stone or something, possibly. So I think it would be fantastic if a Jorah infected Dany with grayscale, or someone else. I think Jorah will be a catalyst for a Grey Plague. What is the worst season of Game of Thrones? Season 5. Do you think there's so much rape in A Song of Ice and Fire because Martin is fat and ugly and he never got laid? Well, I mean, he's married, so I don't think that last part has any merit. I think there's so much rape in A Song of Ice and Fire because there's so much rape in real life. And that's unfortunate, but it's true. Brandon the Builder. I mean, the Night King should have his own undead dragon, right? I mean, sure, man. We haven't actually seen a dragon fighting a dragon in the series, and that's only happened in the past, and I think a dragon fighting a dragon would be a pretty cool thing to see. So yeah, fuck it. Undead dragon for the Night King. Why didn't Melisandre use a shadow in the show to murder Ramsay? If I'm not mistaken, the shadow required someone to fuck Melisandre, and she tried to get Jon to fuck her in Season 5, but Jon refused. So I think that's the reason Jon refused to fuck her, therefore she couldn't make a shadow. This next one, Melisandre is going to meet with whom next season? Now this is great because it allows me to espouse another one of my totally accurate predictions that will definitely come true. And that's that Melisandre, the Hound, and Arya will all meet up in Season 7. Why is that? Because they're all in the same damn place. I mean, they're all going north, right? Last we saw, Brienne and Pod are going back north to meet up with Jon and Sansa in Winterfell. And they're at Riverrun right now, which means they have to go smack dab towards the Twins. Guess who's also at the Twins? And if you want to add just another sprinkle to it, I think that Arya is just insane enough to have stolen Walder's face and taken his place as Lord of the Twins, as Lord of the Crossing. So that could be cool. And also, who else is going towards the Twins? Oh, I don't know. How about the Brotherhood Without Banners? They're going north, right? How are they going to get north? They're going to have to cross the Twins. So those three groups are meeting up, and hilarity shall ensue. Stannis Baratheon. Great king or greatest king? Only king. If you were an assassin, would you rather work for the Faceless Men or the Brave Companions? Faceless Men? I think that's pretty easy. The Brave Companions, I wouldn't want to touch with a 500-foot pole. They're just too much crazy. No thank you. Faceless Men, I'll lose my identity, I'll lose my whatever. I'd rather not lose, my appendages. What do you think will happen to Dany in the books? Is it possible she will never return to Meereen, and her campaign against Westeros will be taken up by someone else, like Tyrion or Barristan? I don't see that as being that likely. I imagine, I said this before in my Dany video and whatever, I think Dany will invade Westeros, and I believe that her invasion will be construed by all involved as a terrible, terrible thing. Another invader, killing, burning, looting, raping by the thousands. And I see Dany as being one of the main antagonists. She's attacking, she's killing, plunging the realm into even deeper chaos in the face of the coming war with the White Walkers. And that's where I see the Dany story going. And whether or not she redeems herself and becomes a better person, or whether she ends the series as the Bloody Conqueror, that remains to be seen. Without Aegon in the show, isn't Varys a pointless character? Yes. Which book character do you miss most in the series? That would be Stannis, because he was one of my favorite characters from the books, and it made me really sad that they cut him and replaced him with a different character with the same name. I thought that was really weird. Of all the changes from the books, what has made you the angriest? Now, my answer to that is not exactly what I expected. It's not what made me the most upset, or in retrospect is what made me the most disappointed, but it is the change that made me the angriest, which is what the question asks, and that's when Dany proved to be fireproof while she was killing the Dothraki. I was livid. My face was red. I was furious. I thought it was the stupidest, most insulting thing to my intelligence I'd ever seen. And less than 5 minutes after the episode ended, I went and recorded my review of that episode, in which you can hear. You can go listen to it. It's on my channel. I'm just yelling into the microphone. And I'm rambling and I'm ranting. It's really the truest rant I have on this channel, where I'm just livid and breathless. You can hear my deep breathing. It's actually a little cringeworthy for me to go back and look at it, but there it is. That pissed me off. Was Dragon Age 2 or Dragon Age Inquisition the one that killed the series for you? What? Dragon Age Inquisition breathed new life into this series, man. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never been more excited for Dragon Age 4 than I am right now. I fucking love Dragon Age. And Dragon Age 2 wasn't even that bad. It's just that Dragon Age 2 had to compete with Dragon Age Origins, otherwise known as one of the greatest games ever made. So I kind of give Dragon Age 2 a pass. It's still a good game. You know, ignoring the recycled environments, the story is there. There's a bunch of quests. It's like a 50-hour campaign. I got no complaints about Dragon Age 2 other than it's not as good as Origins. And Inquisition is mind-blowing. Inquisition is hundreds of hours of content. I loved it. I love Dragon Age, and I don't know how you can think one of them killed the series for you, but I'm sorry that happened to you. Why are you torturing yourself with a stupid Q&A? Jeez, man, I don't know. Were you disappointed with the smug expression on Arya's face while she was killing Walder? It felt too impersonal to me. No, actually, I thought, like I said, Maisie Williams is a great actor. I love how she plays Arya. I thought the smug, almost emotionless expression while she was killing Walder, I thought it was great because it just shows, to me at least, how far Arya has fallen from, you know, the little girl at Winterfell to now a bloodthirsty murderer. What would be your dream ending for Game of Thrones? I suppose my dream ending for Game of Thrones would be the White Walkers winning and killing everyone because the show is a bloody mess and everyone needs to die. There's no redemption. And here's a comment from Last River, a channel you should totally be subscribed to if you aren't. What's wrong with you? Back in your Daenerys video, you talked about doing a KotOR video at some point. Do you still have any plans for that? Yes, actually. I do have plans for that. I have plans for 1,000,000 videos. It's all about finding the time to do it. Finding a time to even do this video was a chore. You saw it took me a month. It's really all about whenever I have free time and whenever I have enough inspiration and enough drive to just sit down and start making a video. There's a ton of videos I want to do. I want to do one on KotOR. I want to do one on The Force Awakens. I want to do one on Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and a billion other things I like and a billion other things I don't like. I have so many things that I could just yell about into a microphone. It's all just about whatever that I'm inspired to do and when I have enough time to do it. So if any of you guys can think of a video that you would want me to do, absolutely put it in the comments. If you see one that you agree with, thumbs it up. And if I know that a bunch of my fans want to see me talk about something, that will definitely put me along the path in order to making that quick. And also from Last River, have you ever considered doing game commentary or something along those lines? I know everyone and their mother does that on YouTube, but I have a feeling you'd be entertaining at it. Well, that's Last River's opinion. What do you all think? Do you think I would be entertaining at game commentary? I could do it. I have a PlayStation 4, which means I have that live stream capability. I can also just record things and upload them at my leisure. Would you like to see me playing video games? If so, what games? Let me know. Would you like me to put them on this channel, or would you like to keep this a rant-specific channel? Should I make a gaming channel? There's a lot of things to consider with all that. I'm definitely not against it. So once again, I'll leave it up to you, my adoring public. What should I do? Does it become annoying or frustrating to you that their formulaic, save all the budget for the last 2 episodes shtick hampers most of the season for what can logically be and what's spent where? For example, never using the direwolves and practically throwing them away or having a decent action sequence early on, etc. So, basically, I kind of get why some people get real hot about this. But for me, it's not really about the budget or about how expensive or how many fights or exciting the mid-season episodes are. That doesn't really get me. I'm fine with saving the action for the end of the season. But really what gets me is when that gets in the way of the story, alright? I think the direwolves are probably one of, if not the biggest missed opportunities in the show's history, because the direwolves are just so spiritually and thematically important to A Song of Ice and Fire that just what's been done to them on the show is criminal. I don't know the reason for this, whether or not Dave and Dan don't understand the importance of the direwolves, or whether or not it truly is the budget, but either way, the direwolves being left out of the story as much as they have been is almost criminal. How many big reveals from this season do you think spoiled things in the coming books? Cold Hands, Hound, R + L = J, Jon alive, etc. Well, that's a tough question, isn't it? I think I'm going to ignore the etc. for now and just answer the questions you asked. Cold Hands, no. I think Cold Hands is definitely not Benjen, or at least not Benjen anymore. Not Benjen in a state where he can identify himself as Benjen. The Hound, I think the Hound's alive pretty clearly. I think it's pretty obvious that the Hound is on the Silent Isle. Whether or not the Hound will come back in the books, that remains to be seen. Yeah, fuck it, Clegane Bull. God, I hate when that happens. The Hound coming back could definitely be interesting. It might not go completely with his character. I think the Hound's arc has reached a satisfying conclusion at this point. But if not, I'd welcome him back. R + L = J, I could talk for a half hour on that, but I've already been talking for 45 minutes before editing, so it probably won't be that long of the video. But in real life, I've been talking right now for 45 minutes, so I don't want to spend another half-hour diatribe on R + L = J. But in the end, I think that's up in the air. It could be, could not be. I think R + L = J has always been the most likely theory. But I've kind of always hoped that it wasn't, just so I could see the disappointment on people's faces. But maybe, maybe not. Jon being alive, I definitely think Jon will return in the books, but I don't think it will be the same. I think Jon coming back will either be, manipulation. It won't be the same Jon. It will be some force, some unknown force manipulating his body. I think this might be a bold prediction. I think we might be done with Jon POV chapters in the books. I know that is pretty bold. I think Jon is done as a POV character, because if George gives us a POV on someone who's been resurrected, that will reveal so many that will answer so many questions we've had for so long. It'll just be insane. And if we do, imagine this, people. This is kind of getting off topic for the question a little bit, but I just kind of want to pose this query. Imagine if in The Winds of Winter, Jon gets resurrected, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way through a book, and we see him taking all these actions, and he's, trying to take back Winterfell, trying to help Stannis, trying to do whatever. And we see him, he's taking all these actions throughout the books, but he's not a POV character, right? Because how could he be? He was resurrected, he's a different person, and that, thematically, Jon not being a point of view character anymore, definitely gives the audience and him a divide, an uncomfortable divide that we haven't had before, but we still kind of see him as the same old Jon. We're so happy he's back. But then imagine the epilogue of The Winds of Winter is a Jon chapter. Yeah. And it's Jon from inside Ghost. How about that? Plot twist, epilogue of The Winds of Winter. Jon is still alive, but he's inside Ghost. Whoever's controlling Jon is not the real Jon. We've all been fooled. Oh my god. Wouldn't that be the best ending to a book fucking ever? But I digress. Didn't Jon's story in Season 6, after leaving the Wall, just feel like a blatant, watered-down version of Stannis' story? They even added in things they cut out from Season 5 from Stannis just to give them to Jon. Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. The show has been doing this since its inception. Since Season 1, they've cut characters and given their stories to other characters, which is kind of, I hesitate to say genius, but it's definitely a smart idea. We don't have the budget to hire 1 million actors, and we don't have the time to have 1 million different plot threads, but if we can give some of these stories to other characters that we do have, that could be an interesting way to handle it. Sort of things like how, instead of Belwas fighting the guy outside of Meereen, it was Daario. Or how Euron is acting for both Victarion and Euron at the same time, and sort of like how the show Sand Snakes have taken up the book storyline of Strong Belwas's shit. That was kind of brilliant. But yeah, they definitely did kill off Stannis just to give his story to Jon, which is insulting and despicable. That's what happened. I agree with you. If you were in charge of damage control for Season 7 and 8, how would you fix the entire series to please the book and show fans, if that's even possible? Woo, that's a tall order there, friend. That definitely would require a video in and of itself and would take me a long time to explain, so stay tuned. Do you think Steven Dillane did a great job as Stannis? Yes. What do you think will happen to Stannis the Manus in the books? That's a tough question. I'm pretty biased towards the Stannis camp. I'll say at this point that I think it's pretty unlikely that he will survive to the end, at least in the state that he's in now. Now, I have seen one or two theories that I have thought were fantastic. They're a little bit tinfoil. They're kind of about the pact between, the first men and the children, and how Stannis might become the new Night's King, and Stannis might be like, an eternal undead vanguard between the living and the dead, and Stannis is like, he's not destined to be the king, but he is destined to be the ruler of the peace treaty between the White Walkers and the humans and stuff like that. I think that was a pretty cool theory that I read, and if that were to happen, I probably couldn't be disappointed. But another thing that this is just purely an image I have in my mind. I have no logical basis to back this up, but it's just kind of this thought I've had, this kind of thing, an image. I imagine Stannis on the Iron Throne, finally, where all rights and all everything have led him to be. He is finally there, top of the mountain. He's conquered his enemies. He's won. He's on the Iron Throne. And then Daenerys shows up, and Daenerys commands him to leave his throne and kneel, and he will survive. But Stannis stays sitting. Stannis doesn't move off of his throne. And Daenerys orders Drogon to burn him, and Stannis is burned alive, sitting on his throne. Some might even call it a king with a crown of flames. Aren't you mad they skipped about 3 to 4 episodes worth of material with Dany, like reaching Dorne and meeting Varys and making a pact with the Martells or something? No, I'm not too upset about that, because that's all stuff I expect to happen in the first 3 to 4 episodes of Season 7. They wouldn't want to give away all of the Daenerys meeting Westerosi characters for free like that, except for Varys. Varys part is bullshit, and I mentioned that in my review. But yeah, really how I see it is that I'm with them. You don't want to give away Dany meeting everyone in the West who we've been waiting for her to do for literally 7 seasons. That's something that's going to be a payoff, and that's something they're expecting people to tune in next year to see, so I can't really get mad at them for doing that at all. How the fuck is it possible that people can call this the greatest show ever, with all its glaring writing problems, but nitpick other shows which try their asses off? Because people are dumb. Do you think that the show changed to the worse from seasons 1 to 3 to now, or do you think that it was always this bad from the beginning? The show has definitely gotten worse, and it's for the same reason I mentioned earlier. I just don't think Dave and Dan are as big of fans of books 4 and 5. I don't think they know them as well. I don't think they were captured, their imaginations and their love were captured by books in 4 and 5, because they were busy trying to make a show out of books 1 through 3. And I think that's a very simple answer. I think it's a sad answer, but I think that's the truth. I just don't think Dave and Dan care about books 4 and 5 as much as they cared about books 1 through 3. And also, I liked season 4, so. Do you think we can get Stannis back now? Like, genuinely. No, I think Stannis is gone. I think Steven Dillane has divorced himself from the show. I don't think we'll be seeing Stannis back. Do you think Stannis had a plan on how to defeat Renly and his knights near Storm's End? With most Tyrells dead, and with Willis and Garland cut out, will House Florent try to take Highgarden and win the Reach? Also, what moves the rest of the great houses of the Reach will do? Well, that's in the show. No, nothing. Nothing will happen in the Reach. How about this? If any of the more powerful houses in the Reach try to make a power play and try to, seize the power vacuum in the Reach, I will make a Cinnamon Challenge YouTube video. I'm putting it out there. I don't believe it. I don't believe it will happen. The show is not smart enough to realize that there's a huge power vacuum in the Reach. So I appreciate your optimism that something like that could happen, but I think Stannis coming back is more likely than that. Why don't people challenge Jon becoming king? He's a bastard and a deserter from the Watch. Because people are stupid. Who do you think will be the Valonqar in the show and in the book? Wow, you guys really... You think I don't know if you think I'm an authority figure or something. I have no fucking clue who the Valonqar is going to be. I kind of think it'll be Jaime, mostly in the books.
maybe in the show as well. I think Jaime is more than likely going to be the Valonqar. I think people are reaching when they say Sandor. I think that Tyrion is the one that we're all supposed to expect. But I do think that Jaime is the more likely because it's the one Cersei doesn't even think of. She doesn't even think about the fact that she's technically older than Jaime. So I would put Jaime towards the top. What do you think of prophecies in A Song of Ice and Fire? Are most of them fake, or do they actually mean something and are important? My answer to that question is who the fuck knows. I am sort of with the characters on this. Like, I don't know if they're true. The characters don't know if they're true. I think there are fake prophecies. I think Preston is definitely onto something when he says these things. I'm not sure if I'm completely on board that all prophecies are bullshit. But that could very well be the case. We simply don't know enough. Ask me again after the next book, and I think maybe I might have a better answer. But my brain's a little fried. I didn't prepare for this as much as I probably should have. But I can't think of any specific examples, but I know there are one or two prophecies that I don't think any character I can think of in the series could have implanted in the mind through a glass candle. I think some of them must have been accurate prophecies, but maybe I'm insane. And of course, everyone from now on, the show's fucking ruined it. Any strange thing that's happened from now on, you can just say Bran did it. All prophecies, Bran did it. What? Oh, Bran that's just Bran in the future. Bran put his hand on a tree and now he can send messages back to the past. So all prophecies, from Daenerys the Dreamer to, the dragon must have 3 heads to everything in between, every prophecy, it's all Bran. And hey, that was our last question. Lots of Stannis questions in there. I think I noticed a trend. I'm glad I finally got through this. Looking at recording time, I've been talking for an hour and 1 minute. Don't know how long the video will be. I'm going to go through and edit out a lot of the ums and ahs. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for asking your questions. And thank you once again for 500 subscribers. That's insane. And other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Keep moving forward, guys. Talk to you again soon.